Alright guys, Hatchcomic again today. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So far, Nadeshot responds to the big 100 Thieves drama that's been emerging over the last few days. Big layoffs at the top end of that organisation and big rumours as to how it might be affecting the LA Thieves team and the Call of Duty side of things as well. Nadeshot's angle is especially interesting because of the controversy in his own personal streams over the last few days and the timing that's affected the community perception of this situation. Nadeshot shuts down some of the community perspectives on the matter. What do you guys think in the comments below? Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. We've got plenty to dive into, but I did just see this thrown around yesterday. The type of stuff that COD Mobile is cooking up compared to what we have in actual competitive COD over the last few years, but whatever. Speaking of Black Ops 6, they did fix it, apparently. They did fix the Ninja perk. It was several days ago now where the game was broken. I mean, the game came out almost a year ago, and 11 months in, 10 months in, Ninja was just broken inexplicably, and they have now resolved it. So well done. This might potentially mean, hopefully does, that the Zuma World Cup is back on. The issue is that Zuma had found the dates and times for all of those 16 teams that were able to go and play. There were a couple of games that did go down, but then it was postponed because the game broke, unfortunately. Finding an appropriate time for those guys to play again is going to be a challenge. Probably not going to be this weekend, might have to be the weekend after. I guess we will see about that. Also, I know that lots of you guys are hoping that the process will be ready soon. Of course, it's going to be a legendary episode looking back at what has been quite the remarkable season, especially for OpTic, of competitive Call of Duty. This was just a little teaser of it that Hex put on his Instagram here. This is Roger. Pretty much what Roger says is his favourite bit of the episode so far is the transition from DreamHack into Champs. So that's kind of, I mean, he says in this video that it's probably not going to be his favourite bit, presumably his favourite bit being them winning Champs, whatever. So presumably, you know, the end of the episode is not yet quite finalised, but that's kind of where the process seems to be up to, is that Roger's very happy with this particular transition from the DreamHack into the World Championship piece, and yeah, that's pretty much where we are at the same time now. So we don't really know where next exactly. They did say that it'll be ready in September. We're on the 9th of September, so presumably in the next week and a bit or so, hopefully we'll at least have a date as to when it's going to be announced, but yeah, I'm sure that it's going to be worth the wait for this one. But let's talk about the 100 Thieves drama, because from top to bottom, things have been pretty interesting over there. We mentioned Logan Dodson. He's pretty much been part of the furniture at Thieves since they launched back in 2018, and his time with the organisation has now come to an end. Last night we had a really big one though, and this actually caused a lot of traction in the community because many people are very familiar with Josh, and just the other day Josh tweeted this out: LA Thieves, he's got a whiteboard, he's cooking up some ideas for the new season. They've got a new roster. You know, I'm sure he's been thinking about how things go over there. You know, he's chefing something up. And then this, he tweeted out on the 4th of September, still fully committed, head down, working hard for the organisation. He's basically a content guy for them, right? And he's been there for a long time. If you've gone to events, you've seen the Thieves team, you'll have seen Josh there as well, right? Like, he is always a big feature for the Thieves team at all these events. And, well, he's pretty much managed everything from them, you know, at least on the content side, from a large capacity. So I'm not really sure what their plan is without him, but as Josh says, never mind, I got fired. And, you know, for this to happen 4 days after he tweeted this out, getting ready for the new season, and then it turns out that, yes, he indeed has been affected by this round of 100 Thieves layoffs that Nadeshot is about to discuss. Now, some of the other layoffs, I imagine, including Logan, I mean, he was obviously involved to some degree on the COD side, but a lot of it is just overall 100 Thieves operations. But this is specific to the competitive Call of Duty team, which has raised questions on how things are really looking over there. So Josh gets, you know, let go. Look, this got 14,000 likes, 2 million views, right? And if you look at some of the replies, even from some of the pro players, right? You know, Kremp's in the replies here, obviously Miles is in the replies, people pretty mind blown at this decision. It seems confusing to me because I'm not exactly sure what the replacement there is going to be. Now, Josh did go live later on to talk about that he'd still like to be part of 100 Thieves, kind of making content for them in some other capacity, maybe not in the way that it obviously has been with Los Angeles Thieves, but he's been a key piece of many of their content ideas over the last few seasons. I know people, as a result of him being let go, were throwing around some of the funny ones over the last few years, and like, there's been many things that Josh has touched when it comes to content from their organisation. Now, as I say, what they're going to do instead is a very good question, but it's no secret that they are letting people go. And Nadeshot actually confirms that it was 12 people were let go from 100 Thieves over the last couple of days. I was interested that, Nadeshot didn't mention any names there. I thought that he might. I mean, I'll share a couple of minutes of this clip that Nadeshot comes out with discussing things from top to bottom from his perspective and all the controversy around the way things currently stand. I thought that he might have mentioned Logan by name, especially just because he was there so long, kind of saying, like, thanks for your time or whatever. But still, Nadeshot reveals, and we've known this to be true, like he's basically said this, but it's not been made explicit publicly until Nadeshot now exactly says it very explicitly, I guess, that he's no longer the CEO of 100 Thieves. Now, we did know this, but Nadeshot reveals that he is only going to board meetings basically once a quarter. He's now effectively streamer and part owner of the organization. But of course, he's not as involved on a day-to-day basis as he previously was. He then says that, look, he wasn't aware that these layoffs were happening when they were. If he was, then of course the timing of this new partnership that he's got would have been called into question. So I'll share a couple of minutes of this, then we'll talk about some of the reaction.
All right, gentlemen, we're back from Mexico after our first couple streams with Rubet, and we got to talk about some things because I got on Twitter, whoa. I got on Reddit, whoa. A lot of people very upset, and, for what it's worth, the timing of some of these things, the way that they played out, I get why people are upset. But look, throughout this video, I'm not really here to change anybody's opinion because just the time that I've spent on the internet where people make an opinion, have an opinion, it's really hard to change that. Just to be clear, I am not the CEO of 100 Thieves anymore. I don't go into the office that's in LA. I live in Texas now. I haven't been the CEO of 100 Thieves for almost 2 years now. And I attend about 4 board meetings a year. Our last board meeting was at the end of July, and that is the last communication besides asking about some off-season roster stuff that I've had with the executive team at 100 Thieves. Why I think that's important is because when I got to Mexico, which was on the 4th, the morning of the 4th, I got a text on the 5th, Friday morning, that they hope I'm enjoying Mexico and just wanted to provide me with an update that they were laying 12 people off that day. Last board meeting that I attended in July there was a conversation that we might have to lay off a few folks. Now, I hope nothing more for you to find a great place, land on your feet. It's the worst. I get it. But I didn't even realize that they were finalized. You could believe me or not. I don't know, bro. That would be a pretty ballsy call for me. Be like, hey, you know what? I know that we're doing those layoffs here, but fuck it. We're going live with Rubet. It's just like, whoa. I had no idea. And when I got the text, I was just like, 59% of my audience is 25 through 34 years old. 19% of my audience is 35 through 44 years old. 5% of my audience is 45 through 54 years old. Dude, 13 to 17-year-olds, 0.02%. Brother. Guys, you act like I make Roblox, Minecraft, and Fortnite videos. You know what I mean? I mean, fuck. I'm watching ESPN, and I got a money line spread ticker on the bottom of the screen. I mean, across all major forms of entertainment and media, gambling advertisement happens. I was doing the case openings a month and a half ago, and we were losing our minds over it. They're like, yo, gold. Open some cases, man. You got to start drinking right now. Like, people were all about it. And I said time and time again, if I'm sitting on stream and you guys were watching the case opens, even if I'm streaming Call of Duty, brother, I make terrible jokes all day. And I said, if I get a gambling deal, I'm doing it. And people were like, fuck yeah, brother. You want to drink and gamble? Let's do it. I'm like, hell yeah. And it happened, and it's awesome. All right? It's awesome. Don't gamble, you will lose. I'm telling you right now, don't gamble, you will lose. But I've got fucking Drake, Trainwrecks, XQC. I've got some of the biggest creators, some of the biggest names of entertainment doing this. Look, I'm not trying to sit here and be like, just they do it, I can do it. But holy shit, man. I feel like I just spawned in and I'm the first one to ever do a gambling deal. Now, the layoff thing and it happening at the same time, I get it. But listen, I am not in the day-to-day 100 Thieves anymore. If you hate me just exclusively for gambling, I can see why some people would hate it or hate me. I got offered an ungodly amount of money to go do something that I enjoy doing already, that I, from time to time.
So we'll discuss the partnership thing in a second. The first thing really is, what does this mean for Thieves and for LA Thieves, especially as an organization, right? We understand that Nadeshot may have taken a substantial pay cut in order to afford getting Scrap and HyDra onto the team last year, to afford getting a facility out in Texas so he could convince the guys to come to Thieves as opposed to going to Gentlemates where they were going to go and they had some money to spend. So look, the 100 Thieves and LA Thieves organizations are inevitably tied together to a certain extent, and 12 layoffs at 100 Thieves is a pretty big deal, right? It's obviously happened before at other organizations as well, but just for it to happen now in this timing, especially to let go of Josh, who's like the content guy for LA Thieves, what's the strategy there, right? Is it a case of just trying to balance the book so they can afford the substantial salaries of their COD team? Is there an argument that at some point, you know, those guys might have to take pay cuts? Will Thieves fans be looking at this upcoming season? Because, look, Scrap and HyDra are getting paid the Supermax, no doubt about that. You think aBeZy and Kenny aren't getting paid well? Like, they definitely are, right? So, and yeah, 100 Thieves also have other teams as well. I mean, their Valorant team, they're part of the partnership league over there, but they've not done very well recently, so they might have to consider some other things. And that's, you know, 100 Thieves. LA Thieves is technically a different entity, but you know, as we understand, it's all kind of part of the same thing, and the money flows in a certain way that is not super clear from the outside. But the point is that salaries in COD are expensive, and yeah, they have skin sales, they have the YouTube deal, there's other ways that these organizations can make revenue, but it's not especially spectacular compared to, let's say, a partnership, as Nadeshot is discussing. So, look, he reveals how the timing of this, him going out to Mexico to do these sponsored slot streams with Rubet, is not exactly the best timing. And at the end of the day, if he didn't do this partnership with Rubet, then those individuals would still have been let go. The decision makers at 100 Thieves have decided that from an operational perspective, they cannot afford to keep these people on board, or in terms of maximizing the value of the shareholders, including Nadeshot himself, that's what they are going to have to do. Then it's a decision that Nadeshot was not involved in, but the operational managers at the organization decided that was in the best interest of the org, and therefore that's what they're going to do. Now, look, should Nadeshot be pumping his Rubet money back into 100 Thieves to keep those guys on? I know some would argue that, but if the organization feels like it's in their best interest to move in a different direction, and that's what was going to inevitably happen anyway, even if it raises some serious questions as to really how that organization looks over the next couple of years. But the other piece of it, of course, is actually this partnership itself, right? And some of the reaction and the repercussions as a result. Nadeshot made the point about, like, his audience is much older, has more, let's say, personal responsibility than the audiences of some other individuals, let's say. And my general opinion on this is that Nadeshot has a conscience as an individual, I think more so than some of these other people that have taken the deals. And as he said himself, he understands that people are going to have opinions about this. I think Nadeshot will have done the calculations in his head and figured out, okay, what does he want to do here? Because he knows that there's going to be repercussions and backlash for doing a partnership like this. And, you know, he would have accepted that from the outset. He did say that, like, when he was doing his CS streams, people were super on board with him continuing. And I think that it is the timing of this 100 Thieves layoff situation that makes it look worse. I also think Nadeshot probably recognizes that give it a couple of months, and, you know, the world moves on, right? Like, yeah, he's taking some reputational damage today, but the generational wealth for his, you know, family and his daughter, whatever, like his new kid on the way, is not going away. So, and I know that people will say, oh, I can't believe these guys are so greedy, they're already multimillionaires and they want more money. Like, you never really know what the situation is, right? Like, we don't know what Nadeshot's mortgage is, we don't know what 100 Thieves is worth, we don't know what his ownership of that is, we don't know how much of his money is put into that. We also don't know what this deal is worth for Nadeshot, right? So, I think it's very easy to judge from the outside looking in, but as Nadeshot says, you know, people, in the same way that people are entitled, in Nadeshot's opinion, to make their decisions, as he says, look, don't gamble, don't waste your money on these slots, but I enjoy doing it. So, you know, in the same way that Nadeshot is believing in the personal responsibility of his audience to make the decisions in their best interests, he also believes that people have the personal responsibility to choose whether they choose to no longer support him over these things, right? So, you know, that's just my opinion on it, really. Of course, it's going to be controversial controversial. There was lots of reaction to it from a number of other people. You know, even this was pretty interesting. This guy Rob says, sold your soul to become another degen stream with no morals. Surprised the video doesn't have a stake watermark. Your favourite football club, Liverpool, is partnered with multiple sports and online casinos, etc, etc. So people were looking at this and saying that, damn, you know, like, why is Nadeshot firing back in this way? Like, clearly the comments touched a nerve. And I think it's plausible that it did, right? Like, I think Nadeshot's, I don't know, my opinion is that compared to some of these other guys who have taken these deals, who don't seem to have any, you know, like, let's say, moral compass when it comes to the implications for their largely quite young demographic, in Nadeshot's case, I think he does have a conscience, and he's made a moral judgment with, you know, the money versus the implications. And I think that's to some degree why you get some responses like this, but not to say that people aren't entitled to have their own opinions of what they want to think about this anyway. So a couple of replies here from Nadeshot. There were some further replies as well, like Doug was talking about it and pretty much saying, like, you're a grown man, you've got to do what makes you happy first. You know, people are going to respect you anyway. And Doug was like, look, you're never going to make me hate Nadeshot and all this type of stuff. So yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting to see some of the community reaction. Definitely intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hopefully someone picks up Josh as well, because it would still be nice to have him around the CDL. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.